Morning guys, Mark Ferrasci with ProTech Dog Training. Heading out to the city today, going down to Compton, into the hood. We're going to hang with the boys. Actually, there is a bunch of guys that I do hang with that are directly in the neighborhood. But this gentleman's not. This gentleman we're going to see is by the name of Juan Mendoza. And a lot of folks in the LA area that are ringers, it's what we call ring sport trainers, or ring sport people, ringers. The ringers know Juan pretty well. Juan's really good. If you're a beginner and you're getting into ring sport, he's one of the best people to hook up with because he's going to teach you the explicit rules and everything you need to know as far as a handler, okay? He's also a very good decoy. And I'm going to him because I've got the situation with Buddy where Buddy wires up and gets into defensive mode, and I've got to teach him to relax a little bit. And he's a little bit head shy. And the reason for that is he's sharp. And for those of you that are trainers, you know what I'm talking about in that regard. So that's our objective and our goal. Anytime I'm going out and working with people, I usually have some kind of goal or objective I'm working towards. It may be getting the dog into the legs and to do leg entries and to do bottom half of the bite work. And then you've got the top half, okay? Dog hits high or hits low, right? Ring sport, a lot of the sport, the whole center on the sport is a lot of leg work. It doesn't mean the dogs won't go high, believe me. But they usually always start in ring sport. They always start the dogs going out to the legs first. They build the dogs that way. There's a lot of stick work. There's a lot of stimulation in those regards and a lot of nuances that come from the sport of ring sport that are very advantageous to training. And I think I've talked about it before. We were talking about IGP and Schutzen and what that does. That's a whole different criteria, but each sport has something that I can get out of it and use in a very practical application. So with me doing personal protection, when I get done with a dog like Joker, I want him to be able to hit you anywhere on your body, and Joker will. If you are running away and you give him an ass cheek, he may very well bite you in the ass. Okay? So, and that all takes work. It all takes work to do it. So I wanted to kind of give an accent point today of building a house, okay? Because that's basically the way I look at it when I'm building a dog. From a young puppy, I like getting my dogs when they're young and raising them from a very young age. And developing that dog is something that I enjoy. So that foundation, that initial work in the people, places, things, all that foundational work to get a dog to go through that early adolescent development period is something that I'm fair to middling at. Not too bad at it. I've been doing it a lot of years. So if you're going to build a house, think about it. If you've ever done construction, you know that the slab goes down first. And each job really relies on the next one in there. So there's layers, right? So we have a slab, that foundation. That's what we call our foundation work. Like when you saw me working Rocky, that dog is as good as he is and will be for the rest of that dog as long as that person doesn't screw him up because of the foundation that I gave that dog, right? And then once we get done with that foundation, the dog goes through a whole level of maturity as he gets older. And I've talked about it before, at about 2.5 years of age is usually when I flip my dogs to the reel. 18 months of age, 2.5, somewhere in there, depending on the dog, depending on the maturity and what you're trying to do. And their genetic stamps, you know, who they are as an individual. I will start showing that dog more defense and start flipping him and toggling those drives. Now in Schutzen, they do that from a young puppy a lot of times, and they'll flip the drive from prey to play, and they'll start showing the dog some defense, and it's a different thing, but it's not personal protection, it's sport. They want the dog to show a lot of drive in the work and tenacity, I guess is the word. There's another word for it, I'm sure I'm missing it, but how aggressive he looks when he comes into the barking hole. Okay, that tenacity that they give, that drive that they give is looked at by the judge. It's going to make them look good, and they want that. You know? So as you're building that house, you've got to have each layer be very good to the next one. So if a slab's not done right, the framers are all pissed off the guys that poured the slab because it's not level. If the framers don't do their job right and the walls aren't plumb and they're not in a good position to be square, the drywallers are all pissed off. So each job relies on the other job that's coming, okay? So the same thing, the same way I look at building a dog, I'm building a house, right? Layer upon layer, depending on the dog's genetic stamp, depending on his breeding, etc. I've mentioned recently a lot, and I'll keep mentioning this, there is no perfect dog. There's always something you've got to work on, okay? So that's what we're doing today. We're going down and seeing Juan, and what we're working on is trying to get Buddy to show a lot less defense and to be a little bit more calm in the work, because he has a tendency to load up, and his threshold is low. So he boils over real easy, okay? And he'll have a tendency to go into defense. Because of that, you have to have a decoy that has the right presence, okay? I was out working last week with one. We tabletop this, and we talked about the dog's problem. We show it to the person that's working the dog, and it's real important that that decoy or that trainer, that helper, has the ability to read the dog and has the timing and to be able to give that dog that energy in the right form so that dog is worked properly, okay? And so in this case, I don't want really a decoy, a helper, a trainer. I don't want somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, because their presence and their energy that they're giving this dog when they're trying to do this will be wrong, okay? And they'll end up making the dog load up, and they don't realize what they're doing wrong. It's not their fault. They just don't have the skill yet. Juan's been doing this a long time, and he's damn good with his puppies, and he's damn good with the dogs. So I know that. So of course I'm heading down to Juan's. Each handler, each decoy has something, okay? There's some of them I'd love to go work with, and they're charging too much. I can't afford it, okay? But they all got to make money, and they charge for their services accordingly. So you've got to respect that. Depending on who they are and their skill levels, etc., they're going to charge a different price, right? I won't go into naming names, but there's some out there that are charging a good hefty chunk of change, and it gets expensive. Now I'm traveling. Let's talk about travel in the sport. Anybody that's been around the sport of Schutzen, or anybody that's been around the sports, knows that sometimes we have to travel on a regular basis, once, twice a week, maybe even 3 times a week, sometimes an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, sometimes 3 hours. I've had people that I know that travel 4 and 5 hours. I would not travel that far. But in a general sense, it's something you need to accept within the sports, because to get to the skill, to get to those people that are going to give you what you need to work your dog, you're going to need to go to them. Right? They're usually working at their club field or wherever they may be. We are going to Compton. We are going to what's called the Granger field. Anybody that's in this area knows this field, because it's used and co-opted by several different people that are in different arts. Okay, there's some people out there that are heavy into Schutzen. There's a ringer, Juan. He rents the field on certain days of the week. He's out there. You've got ring sport. You've got PSA. We had a PSA trial. They're always doing trials and things because it's a great location. It's nearby in the city where you can get off an airplane and come to those trials. So that was where the PSA trial with John, my good buddy with Redemption Road Canine, he was put on that PSA decoy camp, right? Where the guys got out there and got certified to be able to take bites for the sport of PSA. Okay. Luckily, I've talked about this a lot. I live in doggy heaven. So I've got more different sports and more things going on around me than you can shake a stick at. And because I know pretty much everybody, I can kind of pick and choose who I want to work with, as long as they're willing to put up with me that day. So building a dog is all about starting at a very young age for me, and then slowly building that house, right? Layer upon layer upon layer. But it takes skill coming from me to be a good handler, and it takes me knowing the industry and knowing my decoys to go to who I want to go to at whatever particular time to give me the skill and the expertise on what I'm working on. There's some decoys that are very good at some things and some that are not as good as other things. If I wanted to do leg entries and leg bites right now, and I was kind of throwing them at Alex, my other decoy friend of mine that does a lot of PSA and he does a lot of the bullies, he wouldn't be a good choice. And it's not because he's not good, it's just that that's not his art. I want something going on, mainly because of the stick right now, because I'm trying to get Buddy through some head shyness. He's a little bit head shy. He started that at a very young age for whatever reason. I was trying to greet him into people, giving him hot dogs, and he started to decide that he didn't like them going out to pet him. And that was just the way it was. That's who he is as an individual. So we've got to be careful, we've got to be methodical, and you've got to understand what's going on in the dog's head to understand how to fix it, right? So I've got to be able to express it and communicate to my helper and my decoy what I'm trying to achieve and what I'm trying to do, okay? If you're going to a ring sport trainer like Juan and you want to learn the sport of ring, you keep your mouth shut and you let him tell you where you want to be, and you start slowly learning and growing, okay? Because that's the art of the sport of ring sport. As most people know that have been doing canines for any length of time that are in sports, your handler mistakes, who you are as a handler when you hit that trial field and you're at the day of competition. There's a lot more that goes on than you realize. It's not just the dog. That's why they call it a team, okay? It's you and the dog. And your handler mistakes will bring down your scores dramatically. So the more you get out there and practice and get familiar with what's going to happen to you on trial day, the better you're going to do, all right? So that's what Juan is so good at as far as ring sport. He's probably one of the best trainers that I know to go to if you're just starting the sport of ring sport. He's very communicative. He gives you his time. He works with you methodically. He's a very unique individual in that way. If you're looking to do that and you live in this area and you want to get into ring sport, he's probably one of the best people to hook up with. It's going to cost you because that knowledge isn't cheap, all right? So just keep it in mind. I'm going to go ahead and stop chattering because I'm going to do this. I'll see if I can get you guys some videos of some of the work today. I'll see if I can hand it to his girlfriend and let her take some video of us working Buddy. And I want you to pay attention to him when he's working to see how he looks. There's certain things that I'm looking for that I can read in the animal that I know right away that he's slipping into defense and he's not in play and pray. I want to keep this young buck's mental attitude in play and pray as much as I can and keep him from boiling over. That's the whole idea, because he has a very low threshold is what they call it, and he has a tendency to wind up and go to the defensive side. So I'll talk to you soon. Have a good day. Bye-bye.